Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow and Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register a little later on our Tuesday pod than normal, but Iowa pushed its media availability back an hour today, so we're with you about an hour later than usual. Tyler, probably not as eventful of a media availability, I guess, as last Tuesday. Yeah, we were just talking off air. Um, isn't it a weird thing that it's just like Brendan Sullivan and Cade McNamara are practicing, but there's no question that Jackson Stratton is the Hawkeye starting quarterback for the Nebraska game.
Yeah, I mean, it seems Kirk Ferentz seemed pretty confident it's set in stone that Jackson Stratton will be starting, and so the update he gave was that both Cade and Brendan Sullivan both practicing, but Jackson Stratton is the guy, and honestly, I think I kind of agree with it at this point, just because this is obviously not a long-term thing. There's only one game in the regular season left. Both of those guys are coming off of injuries, and Jackson Stratton hasn't ever lost a game as a starter at Iowa. So I think you just roll with him. And he also said doesn't anticipate it to be like a rotating situation. So it seems like it's going to be ride or die with Jackson Stratton as long as he's healthy.
There's the headline: "Ride or die with." There you go, Dargan. There's your headline for the podcast: "Ride or die with Jackson Stratton."
That's pretty good.
We were looking for we were looking for a headline today.
Yeah.
There you go. And yeah, it's no, we didn't get a lot of specifics today about what Brendan Sullivan or Cade McNamara were able to do in practice. However, it sounds like Sullivan is rehabbing quickly. Again, this is faster recovery than he wanted, probably. Just like Marco Lainez last week, kind of was forced into backup action, and we don't know exactly who the backup will be on Saturday, or on Friday. But Kirk Ferentz basically said we really don't want to find out. Like, they want to go wire to wire with Stratton, and I don't know. I'm just exactly. I'm still kind of just taken aback by this whole situation, aren't you? Just we were joking about it a couple weeks ago about your June story about Jackson Stratton, and he legit seems like, he's coming along pretty quickly, and his interview today was great.
Yeah, so we haven't had as much interaction with him as we have with Cade McNamara, just because Stratton hasn't been around as long, but he just seems like he doesn't get flustered by much. He seems like a pretty simple guy from what we talked to him. He doesn't give very long answers, very detailed answers, very short to the point. But he just seems confident in himself, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like a whole lot flusters him, because especially I think he comes in that UCLA game, and you're watching, and this could just be a total disaster. And
Exactly.
and he might have been the only one on the planet that didn't think it was going to be a disaster. But you know what? He was the only one that it mattered if he didn't think it was going to be, because he looked calm, collected. I mean, he led a touchdown scoring drive. Iowa obviously doesn't end up winning the game, but that to me was the first indication of okay, this dude can come through, in a difficult situation. Because not only is that his first action at Iowa, but he's coming off cold off the bench. That's not easy. And then the composure that he showed against Maryland as well. So, this isn't a long-term, I don't think, solution to Iowa's quarterback issue. This has still been just a complete, dumpster fire in terms of being able to have stability over the course of a season. But in the span that he's been able to perform, he's done a really good job of doing it. And I think you can feel now somewhat more confident going to the Nebraska game that he can, at the very bare minimum, run the offense, get guys going on time, and not turn the ball over.
Yeah, I was favored by 5 points. It's not odds makers are well, Iowa doesn't, he's going against the 5-star. Iowa's got the walk-on. Iowa's favored by 5, well, of course. They were favored by 6.5 at Maryland, easily covered. So, there is some confidence from Tim Lester and Jackson Stratton. Obviously, Tim Lester has some say in this quarterback thing too, and he must feel pretty good about Jackson Stratton, and we heard that a couple weeks ago. I go back to the end of that UCLA game, and it's just so unfortunate that after Stratton led the touchdown drive to tie the score at 17, that he only got 3 more snaps the rest of the game. UCLA got 21. And it was interesting to hear Tim Lester talk about how on I think it was 3rd and 6 maybe, or 3rd and 5, on the one possession that Iowa had, he called Stratton's favorite route, which was whatever that one to the left was that Jarrett Bowie did. And he said, and he ripped it, and he just missed the throw by a little bit. And he said that's the throw he does the best. That's his favorite play. And, he was beating himself up after that game because he missed that throw. And you rewatch the Maryland game, and you see, the rollout play action. Yogi Roth talked about it on BTN. He didn't get his head around quick enough and got sacked. There you go. He got sacked. But then there were other rollouts where he did get his head around quickly, made the right decisions. He actually had some nice checkdowns in that game too, if you look closely, including Caleb Johnson. There was one to Jacob Gill that Gill just didn't get to the sticks, but it was really nice, like probably 3rd read. And I don't know, you just see really quick. You're just seeing examples anyway. We don't know, but we're seeing examples of quick progress from Jackson Stratton, and I think it's really smart for Iowa, to lean into that. There's no quarterback controversy this week. He is the guy.
And the most important news of the day pertaining to Jackson Stratton, it was Leishon Williams, he said, that gave him the Shaggy nickname. So
wow,
yeah,
the Leishon legacy. I didn't know that. Good tidbit there, Tyler.
Yes, and also he debunked this whole. Apparently on broadcast they've been saying he was a scout team linebacker or whatever. He debunked that and said that wasn't true. So he said he didn't know where it started, but people have been running with it. That was not true. On a more serious note, I think what should give you just optimism about this situation up to this point is that we've talked about what Tim Lester can do with the quarterback position, which has obviously been a sore spot for Iowa, and the fact that there's just such this discrepancy between recruiting defensively and recruiting offensively. Like Iowa defensively with Phil Parker, Seth Wallace, they get these under the radar gems that other programs overlook, and they just turn them into these elite players. Like Jay Higgins is just an absolute perfect example of that. But there's such a contrast into the offensive and specifically quarterback development where Iowa just isn't able to find, for whatever reason it is, those type of guys. But Jackson Stratton is an example of Tim Lester doing that, like of finding a guy, at Colorado State, barely even played. Like this is just a project, I guess you could call it. And it is turned into actual results in a really short time, even not having worked with Tim Lester. Now, who knows what this Jackson Stratton story is going to end up becoming, like if it's, it's going to be a long-term thing where he really finds his footing and establishes himself. But I think what it is just the early hints of Tim Lester finding that almost gem in the, diamond in the rough type deal, and that you can at least feel confident moving forward about like how Tim Lester can try and just transform the offense in the passing game.
Oh, that's a great point. And I'm glad we're getting to see it play out. I am curious to see. I'm going to be very curious to see warm-ups on Friday. Who is the number 2 quarterback? I have, no reason to believe it won't be Brendan Sullivan at this point. If he is, it's going to be a better second option for sure than Linez probably was, just because you saw him warm up out there and he had a hard pass.
2 hands that are
yeah, a one-handed quarterback isn't going to last too long, probably. Though Marco can run, just got to tuck it with the right hand. But anyway, if they did have to go to Sullivan, for example, even if he can't scramble like he usually can, you at least feel like he could, execute the handoffs, throw some passes on time, that kind of thing. We don't have really a clue what McNamara is doing or able to do at this point, but it's a good sign that he is – for his health, that he is at least back at practice, unlike last week when he did not practice. And you know, he didn't say he was cleared to play, but at least he's clear. We know he's cleared to practice because he is practicing per Kirk Ferentz. So that's the quarterback situation. Marco Lainez, drops from 2 to 4, I guess, here. Max White, he says, no longer the backup, if they had to, and maybe it was Kyler Girardi, who knows, but we'll never find Kirk Ferentz said, I hope you never find out. And I guess we never, at this point, I don't think we'll see one of those guys at quarterback this season. And the good news is, for Iowa fans, you would expect, barring injury, that Stratton and Sullivan would be there for the bowl game. And that gives you some good stuff to chew on potentially, for whatever that bowl games ends up being.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I mean, looking at a little longer term, like I want to see Brennan Sullivan back out on the field this season. Like maybe that's in the bowl game. I just want to see how he responds from that UCLA game, and even more so than ever before. Like the bowl game just feels like a building for the future type scenario. Like it's almost the beginning of the next season as much as it is the end of this past season, just because there's so much, there's roster movement. It's a shell of the team that was basically. So that feels like building for the future. So I want to see how Brennan Sullivan, how he responds from that UCLA game, just to see him back on the field. Cause he still hasn't played a lot as like Iowa's starting quarterback, as like the guy. He came in relief in that Northwestern game, started the Wisconsin and the UCLA games, but the only full game he played as Iowa's starter was the Wisconsin game. And that went really well. But just interested to see him back on the field, back playing, get a better idea of what Iowa has in him, moving forward.
Well, so other injury news today. Anything else you want to talk about with quarterbacks, or we feel good there? I don't, at this point, I don't anticipate a Brennan Sullivan red zone appearance. Do you? I mean, based on what Ferentz said, I guess it's possible, but if he's not like super mobile,
yeah,
probably not.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, I don't see why you would, because if Kirk just basically said he wants to roll with Stratton. So
yeah. And he is pocket mobile.
He is very pocket mobile.
Pocket mobile.
Extremely pocket mobile.
I really encourage you guys to watch the video that from his interview today, that the part that I was at, that was the part we posted. It was probably like 6.5, 7 minutes, something like that. But just really confident kid, laid back, California guy. I don't know. He just got a good vibe to him to me. And, you hope, if you're a Hawkeye fan, you see that good story continue to develop on Friday. Other injury news, Tyler, was obviously Jennings Dunker probably not going to play this week. We knew Reese Vanderzee was going to wait to the bowl game based on post game the other day. That's unfortunate. But Dunker, a lot of people ask me, what's the injury? I don't know the injury, but Ferentz is very optimistic that Jennings Dunker will be back for the bowl game. So I guess that's good news. And Nick DeYoung played what Kirk said was his best game the other day. And let's talk about senior day in that vein, Tyler. So many guys. A guy like Nick DeYoung, did we talk about him in the post-game pod? I don't even remember.
I think very briefly.
I mean, talk about a pretty cool story. I kind of wish we could have talked to him today, but I didn't request him. I don't know if anyone else did. I should have. Here's a guy that was voted third team All Big Ten last year by the coaches. Third team All Big Ten, Nick DeYoung. And he's barely played a lick this year. Hasn't even been in a rotation, really. And he came back for a 6th year, but it's been Richmond, Stevens, Jones, Colby, and Dunker pretty much the whole way. They've had a little bit of Ellsbury in there and Pieper, right? Left guard when Stevens was out, but the rest of those guys have been pretty durable. So pretty cool. One of 23 guys getting honored on Friday. Nick DeYoung, a guy maybe that didn't have to come back, but he did, and you appreciate that he was ready to go. And in that game, played his best football as a Hawkeye. That's a pretty good way to finish. And now he gets to start, presumably on Black Friday, he gets to start in Kinnick one more time. just one of many examples this week, Tyler. What stories are you looking at, just thinking about as senior day approaches here?
I mean, I think Higgins is the one that you just kind of are easily drawn to, even though this is his second senior day at Iowa. But I feel like he headlines it. Nick Jackson as well as that kind of linebacking tandem. But just the Jay Higgins, and we talked to him, a little bit about the Butkus snub, and so if you missed it, he wasn't made a finalist of the Butkus Award. That's the second consecutive year that's happened. And he said basically what you would expect. I think he was asked about it multiple times. When I asked him about it, he was basically just like congratulating the guys on the list. And then you were over there later. He was asked about it again. And he basically just said, like, he's playing for, his parents and his girlfriend and stuff like that, not for the committee. I don't know. I just feel like he embodies just what it means to be an Iowa Hawkeye in a lot of different ways. The fact that he waited behind Jack Campbell and, now he's one of the best linebackers in the country, even if the Butkus Award isn't going to give him credit for that. But there's a lot of them. And I feel like the thing is, like, it's almost a little, I want to say, bittersweet for this group. That's how I feel like, because for all the guys that came back, like, this season did not go as planned. Like this, we thought they had a legit chance of being like a college football playoff dark horse. Those hopes ended, much earlier than I anticipated. And so it's not been like a smooth ride with all those guys coming back. And someone else, talking about guys that won't play on Friday, Jamari Harris will not play on Friday, Kirk Ferentz said. So he was another guy that came back. So it's not, I don't know. I feel like it's bittersweet in the fact that these are a lot of talented guys that are giving a lot to the program, but it's just, the stakes of this Nebraska game aren't going to be maybe what we thought they could be, a few months ago.
Yeah. And then, so when I just filed my column, which I think just got posted. I just tweeted it out and blue skied it out, text grouped it out.
Are you on there now?
Yeah, they're waiting for you. I've gotten a lot of messages. Where's Tyler? Tyler? It's okay. No pressure. It's
no. I got on.
I'm like
Threads.
The cool kid moving over, right? No.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're young and hip compared to me now, apparently. But no, 'cause I got on Threads and then it kind of flamed out. But I also thought that I thought it was pronounced Blueski. I didn't know it was Blue Sky. But
maybe it is. I don't know.
Oh no, I think you're right.
Okay.
You're right. Okay. Anyways, that doesn't matter. But I don't know what you were talking about. You Blueski.
Yeah. What was I talking about? Oh, anyway. Well, it just went up. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I found it. I told you, I was like, I'm gonna write like some senior day, top or whatever, And then, like, when I started writing it, I was like, oh my god, like there's way too many stories here to really. You can't get it into 800 words. And I think so. I didn't even try to get too deep into it, but. It is crazy, the list here, Tyler. I mean, think about Nick Jackson. And like Nick Jackson, you talked to him today. I mean, like, here's a guy that's become a Hawkeye in 2 years. I mean, if you want to get mad about transfer portal whiffs, like, here's one that was not a whiff at all. Like, Nick Jackson has been a godsend for this program in so many ways: leadership, reliability, he and Jay Higgins, feed off each other. Look at Nick Jackson, like his blitzes. I mean, he times his blitzes so well. He's surprisingly fast. Jay Higgins reminded us today. But I don't know. Quinn Schulte, Sebastian Castro. I mean, those are another couple 6-year guys. Luke Lachey. I mean, what a great captain he has been. And man, I'm still waiting for him to get that touchdown. Still waiting. That streak's lingering from the 2022 Music City Bowl, Luke Lachey. And then you even think about a guy like Luke Elkin. I don't think we talked to once this year. Like, an incredibly reliable long snapper, And then Ferentz brought up a suit. There's always a walk-on, that never plays, that makes it to the finish line. And Ferentz kind of picked up on or pointed out Jeremy Chaplin. There's a walk-on who didn't really play, but Kirk Ferentz said, he really developed into a good football player in his time here, and was a distinguished scholar. and a great teammate. Those are the kinds of guys that, maybe there won't be as many of when the roster limits go down to 105. And Ferentz was pretty kind of emotional about that, like, who knows if we'll have a Dallas Clark story again, he said, because, stories like that, you're not going to have as many of those true walk-on, they bring in like 40 walk-ons, and now you can't bring in as many. So, I don't know. It's just I hope you guys that are going to the game get a chance to cheer these guys as they come out. They all have their own stories. Hopefully Tyler and I have done a decent job of telling you many of those stories. Y.A. Black, talked to him today. Man, what an underappreciated, dominant player. And I think he's going to be an NFL player for a long time. Just great guy. Logan Jones wasn't there today. Tom said he might come back next year. Mason Richmond told him that Logan Jones, he thinks might come back for a sixth year. So that was a little bit of a newsy development. We didn't get to talk to Logan, but he's definitely on the list for post game as of right now.
Yeah. Well, as you're going through, all the names and stuff, it feels like, obviously there's still the Nebraska game, but very quickly on the horizon is like, it just feels like it's going to kind of be turning a page to a new chapter in the program. And that's regardless of like, whatever coaching staff might look like. Like, let's say Kirk Ferentz is still going to coach for another 3 years, just hypothetically. It still feels like after this season, it's going to be like almost a reset because you're losing so many guys, particularly on defense. Like last season, it felt like sort of, and, trying to extend that magic from 2023 because you brought so many guys back. Iowa literally brought in 4 transfers. Like that's it. 4 for a football program in the modern era is just like almost unheard of because now you have these massive transfer portal classes. Now, obviously Iowa doesn't necessarily operate that way, but it just feels like with everything they're losing next season, there's just uncertainty. We don't know what it's going to look like. And so this kind of class that's moving on, that'll be celebrating senior day on Friday. It feels like kind of the end of a chapter, almost an end of an era. And then you're turning the page to something new, something more uncertain, something with roster limits. So it's going to, once that final whistle or buzzer, or whatever you want to call it, sounds on Friday, the gears are going to start turning, for the 2025 season.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got our Hawk Central radio show as scheduled tomorrow. So Tyler and I will dig into a little bit of a deeper dive on Iowa and Nebraska itself. But Tyler, I know you got to get going to the basketball game. You're doing such a great job covering the Iowa men's team this year. Give us the breakdown. What are you looking for Iowa versus USC upstate? Is that 7:00, right? 7:00 tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Give us a 1-minute preview, and then we'll let you go. Yeah,
USC upstate, 2-6 overall entering, but they've three of their losses have come against ACC opponents, so they've played some solid teams. Iowa just needs to get through this game as healthy as possible because they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Cooper Koch and Evan Bronze are supposed to be out tonight, so they won't be playing. But Iowa has like basically a 1-week break, kind of during Thanksgiving, and then 4 out of their next 5 are against high major opponents. So, it starts with Northwestern, then Michigan, and then, those are the 2 Big Ten games before the new year. But they need to, 1, get healthy, and then 2, start playing better because this next upcoming schedule is going to be more difficult than they've faced up to this point this season.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk much about the Utah State loss, but let's just forget that. Let's forget that happened. And Dargan and I are going to hit you guys hard with women's basketball on tomorrow night's radio show. I know a lot of you have been asking for that. We're going to do that. We're going to let Tyler go now to the men's game. Thanks for joining us on this abbreviated Tuesday show. Chad Leistikow, Tyler Tachman, Hawk Central. Talk to you tomorrow.